pre-33 gold is legally considered a collectible coin. So it is not bullion. So you go back to what it was, 1933, 34, when the gold was called in by Roosevelt. That gold, those gold coins were circulating. So basically they were calling the coin back in. Today it's different because, I mean, we don't use gold or silver in our day-to-day life. And there's a difference between eagles, buffaloes, foreign sovereigns, etc. They're considered bullion, whereas the pre-33 gold is considered a collectible. You are not a hoarder, you're a coin collector. And I would say that probably goes true for non-graded coins. You know, you could have non-graded coins from 1933 or earlier and still be considered a coin collector. There's two ways to look at it here. First, yeah, the states are beginning to make laws making gold and silver legal tender. But notice they're not saying U.S. mint lineage coin. They're saying gold and silver. So that's for the states. The original reason behind recommending U.S. mint lineage coin is because it would be very, very difficult for the government to confiscate gold or confiscate silver and include eagles, buffaloes, any type of U.S. mint lineage coin. The reason being, if they're selling you gold eagles or silver eagles this week, it doesn't matter whether you go through a dealer or whatever, the dealer bought through the mint. So the U.S. Mint is selling you coin this week, and then can they really come back next week and say, but you have to sell it back? Now, they could certainly do that with bars. They could do that with foreign sovereigns. They could do that with generics. That would not be a problem. But the legal ramifications, the amount of time that it would take to get legislation written, lawsuits, finalized to a judgment, it would take forever if there were a confiscation and eagles, U.S. mint lineage coin being included. So you got to look at it from two different angles, one from the federal level and one from the state level. And I am encouraged on the state level because, I mean, who knows where we're going to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years. I mean, it's very possible, you've heard theories of the country breaking into, 5 different regions or 7 different regions. If that were the case and these states have legal tender laws on the books, then yeah, gold and silver are money. I mean, they are money, but recognized legally as money. I think it clearly shows that Texas and Florida recognize U.S. mint lineage coin as legal tender.
There's often been questions from...
Right. I got one other thing to mention on that, with a big but, meaning a gold eagle has $50 on it. And a silver eagle has, $5 on it or whatever. You would not pay your taxes or you would not pay any bills with a 1-ounce gold coin being $50. So, there's going to have to be some type of legislation, some type of reckoning, because, okay, yeah, great, gold eagles are legal tender at $50. Nobody's selling them. Nobody's using them.
Across America, a quiet shift is underway. States like Texas, Utah, and Florida are passing laws recognizing gold and silver as legal tender. But this isn't limited to us mint coins, it's broader. These efforts reflect growing distrust in fiat currency and a potential future where precious metals reclaim monetary status, especially if political fragmentation or regional autonomy accelerates in the coming years. While federal laws haven't embraced a gold-backed system, us mint coins like eagles and buffaloes hold unique legal protections. Unlike bars or foreign bullion, these coins are harder to confiscate due to direct issuance from the government. That status could become crucial in the event of future gold recalls, similar to what happened under FDR in 1933, but with more legal hurdles today.
Pre-33 gold is legally considered a collectible coin. So it is not bullion. So you go back to what it was, 1933, 34, when the gold was called in by Roosevelt. That gold, those gold coins were circulating. So basically they were calling the coin back in. Today it's different because, I mean, we don't use gold or silver in our day-to-day life. And there's a difference between eagles, buffaloes, foreign sovereigns, etc. They're considered bullion, whereas the pre-33 gold is considered a collectible. You are not a hoarder, you're a coin collector. And I would say that probably goes true for non-graded coins. You know, you could have non-graded coins from 1933 or earlier and still be considered a coin collector. On the other side with junk silver, I mean, yes, that is U.S. mint lineage coin, no question about it. The utility, the reason you want to own junk silver is the utility of it. When the system goes down, we're going to go through a period of 2 weeks, 2 months, God forbid, 6 months or more of a barter system. If we go through a barter system, you want the smallest denomination. So either you can make change or you can make an outright purchase. For instance, let's say a dozen eggs is 1 dime, and 14 dimes roughly 14 dimes equals 1 ounce. So if you went with an eagle and you bought two dozen eggs from a local farmer, you would be extending him credit because he owes you another 12 dozen eggs. So now there's credit involved, and you don't want to do credit. You don't want to give credit. You don't want to take credit. When times are broken, you want to stay away from credit. So, and conversely, if you've got junk silver, if you've got dimes, you've got quarters, you can make change for a 1 ounce coin. So basically, it's the utility of junk silver. That's why I believe it to be the best. The downside on junk silver, and this, I'm not saying that you don't have to pay your taxes, but if you sell 1,000 eagles, there's not a reporting limit. It's not a reportable taxable event. It is a taxable event. You are responsible for it, but there's no reporting. With junk silver, if you sell $1,000 face or more, it's a reportable event. You'd have to give your social security number, and the IRS gets notified of your sale. So that's the downside, is that there is reporting. But again, you are responsible for the taxes either way.
If the financial system falters, junk silver pre-1965 US coins becomes essential. Its small denominations allow for daily barter without the complications of making change with full-ounce coins. But utility comes with oversight. Selling $1,000 face value or more is a reportable transaction. Despite this, junk silver remains the most practical form of real money in scenarios where the grid and trust goes offline. The US dollar is in structural decline, falling as global demand wanes and central banks shift to gold. Officially, gold now accounts for nearly 20% of global reserves, partly due to rising prices. Meanwhile, questions remain about America's gold holdings. If the rumored shortfall were confirmed, it could trigger global financial panic, undermining the very system built on trust in US treasuries.
The trajectory of the dollar is down. I mean, it's gone from roughly 110 to 97, and it's broken. Half of that move has been done in the last 6, 7, 8 weeks. A move down from 104 to 97, and I think that's a function of the world using less dollars. The world making contracts in less dollars. We had strength in the dollar. I mean, it ran up to 110, and it was, that was basically a short squeeze. What you had was contracts or trade deals finalizing, and once they finalize, then what you had was you had foreigners having to buy dollars to satisfy that contract. So it was absolutely demand. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it was contrived demand, if you will. It was contractual demand. It was not emotional demand. It was not a desired demand. It's not like foreigners were going out buying dollars. They had to buy dollars to finalize dollar contracts. That is waning. If you look at, I mean, the talk right now is, the Federal Reserve should be cutting rates. Well, what happened the last time they cut rates? They cut rates in 2 or 3 moves, 1 full percentage point, yet market rates went up 1 full percentage point. I think Powell right now, the Federal Reserve, as a whole, I think they're in an outright panic that if they cut rates, then you're going to see another big down leg in the dollar. And I think that's the reticence of the Fed not cutting rates, because if they cut rates and all of a sudden you see the dollar tanking again and interest rates going even higher, what does that tell even the clueless? The clueless are going to know that the Federal Reserve has lost control of the yield curve. The reason there's been more volatility in treasuries is because it's become a thinner market. There are less participants. And I would say just the fact that foreigners are trying to distance themselves from the dollar, those guys are not playing, if you will, market. So that liquidity is gone. Less liquidity will always equal higher volatility. I mean, that's just a simple fact. As far as the dollar never going away, I think that's completely wrong. But it's going to be difficult for it to go away, because even today, the dollar represents 50% across the board. I mean, some are higher, some are lower, but it represents 50% of central bank reserves around the world. Now, that number was well up into the 60s if you go back 10, 15 years ago. And interestingly, gold now is what? Is it 20%? Is that the number?
The Basel III, how they account for it, 15%?
No, the amount that's being held by central banks. I think the number is approaching 20%. And the thought process is, oh, well, that's because all these central banks had been buying gold. And I'm going to say, yeah, only a little bit. The biggest thing is the price of gold has doubled. So if the price of gold has doubled, it's going to obviously take a bigger percentage of reserves. Now, central banks have been and they are buying. And I think I think it's a joke. China says they have, 3,000 tons or thereabouts. I mean, they have 10 times that minimum, and you could scratch that out on the back of a napkin. I mean, you just look at their imports from 2010 on, and I mean, they've got easy 35,000 metric tons compared to the U.S. supposedly has 8,300 metric tons. And we were going to have an audit. We're going to have an audit. Where's the audit? There's not going to be an audit. They can't do an audit. I mean, if the truth comes out that the U.S. has no gold, what happens to the entire financial system worldwide? It gets smoked, because the foundation to the financial system are U.S. treasuries. And when it used to be gold.